Thanks again for tuning into yet another video. We are attempting to install the Powerjames bracket on the underside of the fairing. We'll see how it works out. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work because of the spacing between the light and where it mounts. It's very, very tight. But I'm using, of course, the Dremel tool, and I've already went ahead and I trimmed off 2 mounting points. So I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick it up. I really don't have a lot of space, but you guys can see I already cut out these two. So the plan is, and then I still have this one left. So the reason why I left this one is so I can show you guys, of course, how I'm doing it. I'm just aligning the Dremel with the fairing. Watch your fingers, of course. So I left that last one because I really don't know how to film this while I'm trying to hold this. You guys can see I already have the fairing painted, so I didn't want to lay it down on the on its front side and scratch the paint again. Well, not again, but I had to repaint it because my neighbor was burning his trash and it got all over my clear coat. So trimmed off those with the Dremel just to kind of show you guys how to do it. Of course, this is I believe it's a metal disc, so there's hot plastic, of course, coming at your paint. I did get a couple little spots here and there, so if you're doing this, probably tape off the front side of this so you don't get hot plastic on your paint. Hot plastic on paint really doesn't match, or it doesn't really go together. So we've already trimmed that off. Alright, I also went ahead and with the Dremel again, trimmed off these parts of the fairing. You guys can see this is where the dog ears of the bracket, or whatever you call it, where the LP6 fits. I already went ahead with the Dremel. Like I said, I already went ahead and I cut that off. I already trimmed that off so I could fit the LP6 bracket on the underside, and we'll see if it works. There's still a little bit of plastic here. I can feel it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over the Dremel to a sanding cylinder and then just kind of clean that up so I can have a flat surface. That way when I mount the bracket, it's not tilted at an awkward angle. So let me go get that, clean it up. You could also do this, of course, you could get your Dremel and clean up your trimmings, but these other ones are pretty flat. I just got to clean this one up a little bit just to kind of make it flat. Or you could just mount it like so. It probably doesn't matter. But I'm gonna go, since I have the attachment, I'm gonna use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up, and then we'll be back with the bracket, with the Powerjames LP6 bracket, and we'll see if it improves the look of the light by having it recessed by about maybe a 1/4 inch. All right, so we went ahead, cleaned it up with the sanding Dremel. Now it's nice and flat. Let's go ahead and grab our LP6, but first we're gonna have to figure out what bolt's gonna fit in this bracket so we can maximize the strength, because the LP6 is a heavy light. It's a 5-pound light, vibrations and all this other stuff. You need a bolt that can handle the weight and the vibration of your bike. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a few bolts because I do have some extra bolts. I'm gonna see which one fits through these holes, and then I'll tell you guys which one's which one's gonna be the best one for you guys. Let me go check, and we might have to make these holes a little bit wider because these are for the screws. The bolt and nut needs a thicker mounting. So we're gonna go ahead and just trim these out. And the benefit, if this does work, the benefit of doing this, of course, you could still use your OEM light if you do ever decide to sell the bike and you want to keep your LP6, because I mean they're expensive. If you do want to keep your LP6, you could go ahead and you still have your OEM. With this system, you'll still be able to mount your OEM light. You'll just have to use the nuts and the bolts to mount it, and you're pretty much fine. The other system, which I'm gonna have a link in, I also have the bracket. The other bracket I also have it, but I'm trying to see if I could make this $50 this $50 bracket work, because the other options you're looking at 120 up to 300 bucks. All right, so I found the proper bolts. These are M6 Allen head bolts. The reason why I'm doing Allen head is because I'm not sure the spacing between the bolt and the LP6 is going to be enough to clear. So I want to have these as flat as possible, and these are pretty flat. All right, and of course you also don't have to use a washer, because this is pretty much a washer. So this should give me enough clearance, but you guys can see this will not fit in that hole. So what we're going to do is go ahead and drill this out. So pretty much it right there. If you want to do tape or something, you probably could, but I mean, if this doesn't work, we can still use the bracket. We'll just have to use it this way, of course, like so. All right, so I'm not too worried about the paint. You don't have to do any pilot holes or anything. We're using the existing holes as your guide, so that's why we don't have to do any prep or anything like that. All right, so the camera's about to die, so let's go ahead and put that in there, line up our holes, grab our M6 bolts. They fit in there just like a glove. Just so snug in there. I'm using lock washers. So these are M6 washers and lock washers. The reason being, of course, is if you guys have been watching my videos, you have to try not to use Loctite around raw ABS. It will eat up the plastic. I've learned that the hard way with my saddlebags. All right, so that's the reason why I'm using these lock washers to not have to use Loctite. So we'll see how this works out. Like I mentioned, if it holds up, then I'll check in with you guys, and if it doesn't, then we'll just trim this out and then we'll mount it. Oh, I'm doing this the wrong way. I gotta put it on the other side. All right, so mount it, of course, trim out. Here, I'll check in once I get this fixed. This is supposed to be underneath. That's the whole reason why we're doing this. It's supposed to be on the underneath the fairing. All right, so we went ahead and put it underneath the fairing. We run our bolts again, line them up like so. If you have a working surface area, if you have the room for it, this would be a pretty good time to put that through. So this one's very tight. Here, let's see if this thing lines up. This hole's pretty tight. I think it should be fine. I'm not sure if I have to make another hole, or make it a little bit wider. I think we're okay. Yeah, we're fine. So like I mentioned, you'll have to trim this part of the fairing, and that's pretty much it. That's all you have to trim out, is this and this. Oh, the camera, I'm not even sure you should be able, because of the angle. So you have to trim this out. All right, I used the Dremel, like I said. I cut into it like this, and then I cleaned it up. You guys can see how nice it looks with, once again, the sanding one. Just trimmed it out, cleaned up my cuts, and I'm not sure if this is going to work. The bolt and the fairing is just way too close, guys. I don't think it's going to work. All that modification, I don't think it's going to work. There's just no way. Here, let's bolt this up. We'll see if there's enough room to kind of put the bolt in there. It doesn't seem like there is. Unfortunately, this might not work. If it doesn't work, then we'll just mount it using the same holes. We'll just mount it on front of the fairing if it doesn't work. This is just me attempting to do it. We'll thread this in there with the bolt and the nut, the lock washer and the washer. And stay tuned. We'll see if this works. It doesn't look like it is, unless we could probably find smaller bolts to fit that in there, but I just don't think we have enough room to make this work. Alright, so I already tightened up the brackets, of course. This is, like I said, M6 Allen head bolts. I'm using the lock washer on the back so I could avoid using Loctite. On this one I am going to be using Loctite because it's directly into the light, so there's no ABS there, of course, obviously. And I'm using a 1/2 inch bolt. This is the only way you can make this fit. Alright, the OEM bolts that are provided for the LP6, they're way too long. It doesn't fit. So we're going to go ahead and just, you can see how it just barely clears. So I mean, it's a little bit of a pain in the rear, of course, trying to get this to fit. But I mean, this is the only way to do it if you want this, if you want to clean this up. Very tight, and you could always see, you could already see. All right, so this GoPro has now glitched. These are so notorious for glitching. So I'm trying to charge it, recording, it has now frozen. So I'm gonna use the handheld. So sorry for the shaky cam. Hey, you know what? Let's see if we could switch this out real quick. These install videos take just so much longer than what they should because of all this BS. So let me go ahead and remove this and then try to see, or you know what, let's just, pretty much guys, that's it. All right, you guys can see it's already threaded there. This one we're gonna go ahead and line it up. We're only using one bolt. I mean, that's the way I have it on my Lowrider S, and that's the way I have it on my Sportster for a while. So I'm only using one bolt. Like I mentioned, you don't have to use both of them. There's still, you can still align this, of course, adjust it and stuff like that. You just got to crank these down. So that's pretty much the end of the video, only because the GoPro's not working. And we just lined that up, tying down these bolts. Like I said, you need to use half-inch length, quarter-inch bolts on this. And then of course on the bracket, on the fairing, we're using the Allen head. You can see how tight that is. So that for that reason, we're not using the regular bolts. You have to use an Allen head bolt, so you give yourself enough clearance for your LP6. And then of course you could already see how much better it looks now that it's recessed by, I'd say it's almost half an inch, because you calculate the thickness of the bracket and then the thickness of the fairing, and combined that's about 3/8 to half an inch that's recessed in. So now you don't even have to buy the $120 option. You could just do this modified, and like I said, you can still use your OEM. You can still use your OEM light, even if, like I said, if you decide to put it back on there, you're not compromising the fairing by trimming it out. You can still use it. So thanks for tuning in. Hopefully this video helped you guys out, saving yourself $300 just by doing this. You just need the specific bolts, and luckily I have everything here. I have all of this stuff just lying around. I'll be able to finish this up today and then have this mounted. You could of course clean up all the trimmings and all the shaving that you were doing before you put the light in. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this back off, clean it up, wipe it down, and then put the light in, and we're pretty much done. Like I said, the OEM LP6 bolts, they won't fit in here, and of course you guys already saw everything else that I mentioned. So thanks for tuning in. Please leave a like in the video, guys. Please, it'll help out the channel. I don't really request it that often, but please, this is gonna help you guys out a lot. Powerjames bracket with a little bit of modification and trimming, you can get this done. Let's get out there and ride. Later.